Hey guys, it's Ashley and we are at a race against time here because it is cloudy and it is about to storm and I need to film this before the weather hits, so let's go. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I am hoping to read this fall, all of the new releases I'm excited for, all of the books that I haven't gotten to this year that I've been waiting until fall to read, and things like that. So without further ado, let's get started. First I'm going to be listing out all of the new releases I'm super excited for, and then we'll get into some of the books that I am just hoping to read in general. First up we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab. This book and a couple of others that I'm going to be mentioning on this list I actually left out of my most anticipated releases of 2020 video that I made months ago in like 2019 because I'm stupid. That's literally the only explanation. I made that video with the intent to like branch out and maybe like mention a bunch of new authors and stuff like that, and I didn't even think about my favorite authors and the books that they were releasing, so I like literally kicked myself for months over after making that video. But I'm making up for it now that I'm mentioning it here. I don't know a whole lot about this story, but I've heard really good things. The most that I know about this is it's about this girl named Addie who everybody she meets ends up forgetting her as they meet her. So like she's never remembered by anybody. And I don't remember why that is, whether she like made a deal with the devil or something, but it sounds really interesting. And Victoria Schwab is always on Instagram and Twitter talking about like how much this book means to her and how long it took her to write it and how proud she is that it's out, and so I'm like, I'm ready. Anything that you write, I'm ready, girl. Next up is one of my literal most anticipated releases of all of fall. Like, I'm really excited for Victoria Schwab's books, but like this book though, I am so ready for, and that is Hollowpox. The Hunting of Morrigan Crow, I think. I just know it's called Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. Oh my god. I think I'm most excited for this because it's the third book in the series, and I need to know what happens. Should I reread Wondersmith in preparation for this, even though I already reread it in March? Yes, because I've forgotten a lot of the details after reading so many other new books this year. Will I? Probably not. I'll probably just hop into this and figure it out as we go. The big moment at the end, I do remember that. So that's all I need. If you don't know what Nevermoor is about, which is the first book in this series, you might be a new subscriber because I'm constantly talking about this book, but if you would like to know, it's about this girl named Morrigan Crow. She's like 12, this is a middle grade story by the way, who is the unluckiest girl in the world because she was born on the unluckiest day of the year in the world, whatever it's called. So basically she's blamed for all the bad things that happen, and one day this guy named Jupiter North arrives and sort of whisks her off to the world of Nevermoor, where she gets to compete for a chance to be in the Wondrous Society and stay in Nevermoor forever rather than having to go back to her normal world sort of place. This book is so fun, it's so quirky, it's really unique, it's funny, it's just overall like the best time, and I just highly recommend you read it. Even if you don't like middle grade books, if you just want something really fun and adventurous and just different, pick this book up. It's so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Next up is a book that I mentioned in my August TBR video, I think, and that is The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This is the second book in the Magnus and Alec adult series that is happening. I read the first book not last year, maybe the year before, maybe it was last year. I'm really bad with time, you guys. But anyway, I read the first book at some point in my life and I really enjoyed it, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I know I said in my TBR video that I was hoping to reread the first story before getting to this one. I don't know if that'll happen. I might just end up jumping into this one and figuring it out later. We'll see. I just realized I haven't been giving dates to any of these books. So Addie LaRue comes out on October 6th, I think. Hollowpox comes out October 27th, and The Lost Book of the White comes out on September 1st. So the next book that I want to talk about, I already have a physical copy of already because the publisher sent it to me as an ARC, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I have to admit, I didn't know that this book was coming out in the beginning of the year, but as soon as I saw this cover, I was like, oh my god, I need to read this right now. Like, this book looks so pretty and the story just sounds so good, so I'm really, really excited for this. The story is about this girl named Bree whose mother dies in an accident, and she decides to go to this residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill to like escape from the grief and all of the things that she's feeling. But one day on campus, she sees this like magical attack sort of thing. This flying demon comes in and starts like feeding off of human energies. And then there's this like magician or mage called Merlin, calls himself Merlin, and tries to wipe Bree's memory of the whole thing and fails because Bree discovers she has her own magical powers. So she discovers there are these people called the Legendborn at this school, and they reveal themselves to be like the descendants of King Arthur. And so they have to like work together to like fight in this magical war or something. It sounds wonderful, so I'm really excited for this, especially because in a way it kind of gives me the same vibes as The Mortal Instruments, at least the City of Bones in the first book, where she's like really discovering everything that's happening, and she realizes that she's like part of these people. It's the same thing with this in a way, it's just with the Legends of King Arthur. So I'm really excited to get into this. Also, Legendborn comes out on September 15th. I'm really bad at remembering to give you guys the dates, I'm sorry. So the next book that I'm really excited about and hope that I can get to is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, which is a book that I had seen a lot about a couple months ago and then looked into and realized, wow, I actually kind of want to read this. This book is about this boy named Yadriel who is trans and his family is having trouble accepting his true gender, so he decides he's going to prove himself as a real brujo, however you say it, and he's going to like summon a ghost, I guess. Oh, he wants to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. That's his goal here. But he actually ends up summoning Julian Diaz, who is the school's resident bad boy, who decides he doesn't want to go away. He wants to stick around and figure out what actually happens to him, I think. And left with no choice, Yadriel agrees to help him figure it out and tie up some loose ends before he goes, and then the more they spend time together, the more that he realizes maybe I don't want him to leave after all. I have no idea what is going to come out of this book, but it's got a lot of different things in it and I'm very excited. Also, I know in my Q&A I said that I'm really tired of like the bad boy trope, but this does not seem like the same kind of story that I was thinking of, so I don't know, we'll see what happens. There are a couple of more new releases that I am excited for. For instance, there's the new Tristan Strong book by Kwame Mabalia. There's the last book in the Stormrunner series by J.C. Cervantes. The Shadowcrosser is what it's called, I think. And there are definitely a couple more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure I'm forgetting. I'm definitely interested in reading those as well. It just depends on what my mood is gonna be this month and figuring out what I'm in the mood for. But they're definitely up there on this list. Oh, and duh, I wanted to read The Trials of Apollo. But yeah, I was gonna mention this in my September TBR, or like my September reading plans video, but I do really want to read The Trials of Apollo. I'm going to reread the whole series in September, so if you want to join me on that, you are more than welcome to, but I'm going to reread the whole series, hopefully like one book a week, and then when the 5th book comes out at the beginning of October, which also, why didn't I add that to this list? Oh my god. The Tower of Nero comes out October 6th. I want to read that so that I can finally be caught up with all of Rick Riordan's books. I'll have read the Kane Chronicles, I'll have read all of the Trials of Apollo. Nobody can yell at me for not having caught up yet, and I will feel so much better about his books. So that's definitely high on my list, definitely something that I'm gonna get to, and I will talk about it more in my September TBR. And other than that, I only have 2 more that I really want to mention that I already have, that are already out, but I would really love to get to this fall. Specifically, my goal is to read more fantasy, and I know that I say every year that fall and winter is like a fantasy month for me. It's very fantasy driven. My mood just like shifts way toward fantasy than anything else, and that's definitely true, and I'm definitely feeling that happen in my brain. I'm like, ooh, that book looks good, and it's like this thick-ass fantasy book. But I really do want to try to read a lot of the fantasy books that are on my shelf or that I've been wanting to for a while, especially this year, because I would love to get into some of the more like complex adult high fantasies. I'd love to end up reading The Name of the Wind or Brandon Sanderson, especially like The Way of Kings, which is like freaking massive and has like multiple books. Like I'd love to get into those sort of stories, but I'd also love to read some of the YA high fantasy that I have on my shelves. So that's like my goal. My goal is to like read more of the high fantasy that I have, more of like the complex like epic fantasy, and then slowly progress into the confidence to get into those bigger stories. That's my overall goal that I'm hoping to accomplish. Wish me luck, cross your fingers. Hopefully I got this. But with that being said, I would really love to finally get to the Mistborn series or trilogy or whatever it's called by Brandon Sanderson this fall. I've been hearing about the series for years, ever since I started my channel. I've had it for years and I've just never read it. So hoping that I can get to that, and I'm also really looking forward to finally finishing the Scythe, Arc of a Scythe trilogy. I think that's what it's called. Starts with Scythe, then it's Thunderhead, obviously. I've talked about this many times so far. I have a book talk up for Scythe if you're interested. I wanted to wait until I filmed that book talk in order to get to Thunderhead because I didn't want to mix up any of the events that happened in the books. So now I got it. Now I can read Thunderhead, but I also want to get the physical copies to read them. I prefer to read that over audiobook because now I'm like really interested in the book. I want to be able to like see and like remember everything that happens. So gotta get to that first. But overall, those are just like the two main series that I would love to get to and completely finish by the end of the year, or at least in fall, I guess. And overall, I just want to put like more of an emphasis on fantasy this season. Cool. And so with that being said, I believe that is all of the books that I am hoping to get to this fall. If you have a specific book or series or genre that you're really hoping to dive more into, or at least just get to this fall, definitely let me know down below. But other than that, I think that's going to be it for this video. So if you want to follow me on any of my socials, all of my links and handles are in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Bye!